All right, welcome to a new episode of Tree Service Marketing Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and we've got a guest today, Blake McDaniel from McDaniel Tree Services. If you're on the YouTube channel watching this podcast as a recording, go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel. We've got more expert interviews coming up in the future really soon. They're already scheduled. If you're on the audio, go ahead and like your favorite podcast on Spotify or Amazon podcast or anything like that. We're on all the major players. But we wanted to do an expert interview today with Blake. He's going to tell us a little bit about his business, kind of how he got started, where he is today, kind of what got him to where he is today. So Blake, welcome aboard, man.
Hey, Wesley, it's nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks for showing up, man. A lot of people get a lot of value out of these interviews because I know even me being in the agency business, I network with other agency owners and masterminds and things like that, listen to podcasts. So it just really helps hearing from other people in the business.
So really, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how much insight that I get from podcasts and videos from other professionals, other owners, things like that. So I don't mind trying to help somebody else out that's, up and coming, or maybe in a different area that doesn't do things quite the same. Maybe we can talk about how, East Coast, West Coast, Southeast, Midwest, different guys do different stuff different ways.
For sure, man, for sure. So we're really grateful for you being here today. So tell us a little bit about maybe like how you got started in the tree service business. Maybe you worked for another company, maybe you didn't. And kind of like how long you've been in business, where you're located, kind of maybe crews and revenue, if you want to share any of that stuff, as much as you want to share, no problem.
All right. Yeah, no problem. We're pretty small. We've been in business since 2016. We officially, did our formation legally in January of 16. I was doing like side work kind of stuff probably a year or so before that. But January 2016 is when we got officially started. I was still working part-time as just a one-man kind of contract climbing at the time. I've been cutting trees for clearing fire breaks and fence lines and stuff like that, and down on a farm and stuff since I could hold a chainsaw. Since I was old enough for my dad to think that I wasn't going to cut my leg off, I've been cutting trees down.
There you go.
Firewood, clearing fire breaks, things like that. I've probably been doing it professionally for a little over 10 years now. We're 6 years in with me owning the business. I got started as an owner doing McDaniel Tree Services after I was in a rental property doing some work for my landlord. And I told him, I was like, hey, we've got some trees on the property. I wouldn't mind cutting them. If, you can clean all the stuff up, I can get everything down safely. If you want to take, work for rent kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, since I'm not going to be doing any of the cleanup, you get an estimate, whatever half the price of your intermediate estimate is, you take that off my rent and we'll get this knocked out. He said, that sounds like something we can work with. And I was working on cell towers at the time, climbing towers. I was on a Tiger team, and came home from probably being on the road for 10 days or so. And on the weekend, borrowed a set of spikes and a harness and, got up a tree and started cutting and taking some of these trees apart. And my wife took some pictures saying, this is what kind of crazy man I'm married to. He's been on a tower working 300 and 500 feet up in the air for the last 10 days. And he comes home and starts climbing trees and swinging with chainsaws. She posted that stuff on social media, and all of a sudden I'm getting people left and right being like, hey, I need somebody to do some work in some trees, but I'd rather be somebody that I know, and, not for free kind of stuff. We can pay you. I was like, all right. So I kind of started doing it on the side, when I'd come home from being on the road working, I'd have my weekends full or my 3 days off or whatever full. of doing trees. It got to the point to where I was losing money going to work for the amount of money that I would have been making cutting trees, because I was only making, let's see, 2015 or 2016, I was somewhere around between $18 and $20 an hour working on cell towers. And I was coming home and making in 3 and 4 days what I was making being out on the towers all week.
Sure.
So I finally decided that, I'm just going to go into business for myself, do this full time, and, hope and a prayer, it'll work out. So that's where we got started. I spent the first year contract climbing. I was working it was me, an old husky farm boss, one climbing rope, one rigging line, and I had an old tower harness that I was using for climbing in trees with, which is not the same thing as what we know to climb in now. It's better than a lineman's belt, but it's not quite the same as working in some of these nicer tree harnesses that we've got.
Yeah.
So I did that the first year or so. I was contract climbing, working I had a Ford Focus hatchback, and I had the one saw, the one rope, and one saw and 2 ropes, set of spikes, and the belt, and that was it. And I was keeping myself busy enough to start in with doing some lead generation and it's a little bit of advertising. We're still doing a little bit of Facebook off and on here and there kind of stuff. And finally got to the point where I wasn't having to contract climb. I was starting to get my own work in. Perfect. Hired one guy. And that was, I would hire a guy on an as needed basis kind of thing. Like, I got work for, 2 or 3 weeks, or I need you like 2 or 3 days a week for as long as you're willing to work like that kind of thing. Somebody that was just a little odds and ends kind of, helpers.
Sure. Yeah. We'll stop right there just for a second. I want to back up to when you got started and kind of branched out onto your own business. And that's a really familiar story. I think a lot of people resonate with that part right there. So you were doing the cell phone towers, climbing up those. You probably had your good feeling for heights, and you're comfortable with that stuff as much as you could be, I guess.
Oh yeah.
And then the landlord thing kind of worked itself out where you could get the trees done. And that was that kind of your first introduction into kind of doing a full tree removal, like limb by limb type thing, or would you already do some of that in the past?
No, it wasn't first time being up in a tree doing like a full removal like that over like structures and stuff. I've done it before, helping other buddies and stuff that had been guys working in the tree industry, like, and they knew that I didn't have a problem working at heights. I was competent. I knew rigging and safety and all that stuff. So I'd help them on side gigs and stuff over the years. But no, that was definitely the catalyst. I'm going to do this just to try and save some money off my rent turned into 6 years later, we're over $500,000 with, me and 3 guys running one crew.
That's awesome. And that's where I wanted to start right there. So that's kind of the linchpin of everybody's business formation and getting started, really, is you're already usually working a full-time job, and that kind of keeps you busy. You've got somebody kind of over you got somebody watching you. So it's kind of tough to kind of, squeeze in the part-time work for your own business to get that going and get that momentum building. And so once you do, and like you said, you start making money on 2 or 3 days a week worth of jobs, worth of work, but that's your business and it's something that you want to do because you're doing it. And then it's almost as if, hey, if I quit doing my full-time job, I think I'm going to make more money by just doing my new business with the tree service business instead of working, over here. Because it is kind of like a safety net thing. Like you feel like you're more safe with a full-time job, but when you really think about like loyalty today and companies and stuff like that, honestly, probably running your own business and being a hustler is going to be less risk than working for somebody else who may not, want to keep you.
Oh yeah. I know that every day, as long as I put the work in, I've got a job to go to.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about, like, if I put the work in working for somebody else and they'd start downsizing, then it doesn't matter how good I am at my job or how much I hustle, I still might not have a job the next day.
Yeah, there's things beyond your control, and that's
Yeah, it's all. I mean,
yeah.
This is the job that owning my own business, doing this work is what I tell people I should have been doing for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Like I should have done this the day I got out of the military, I should have started doing this.
Yeah. That's the thing people do is I wish I would have started sooner. I think it's on a lot of people's mind, but again, it goes back to that safety net. I've got bills to pay. I've got a full-time job. I got a safe, secure job is what they think.
Yeah.
And so it's just hard to make that leap. And so I think what you did was the perfect way to do it. And I've heard a lot of stories of business owners, my own story, all that stuff too. And it's like, if you can start building up some side income, it makes it way less risky to start your business that way than just to kind of quit and then draw a line in the sand and go the other direction. Both of them are viable options, right?
But I was lucky in the fact that being able to do that, the schedule that I was working on like a travel and construction team, like I would have like, between 3 and 5 days off, depending on how long I'd been on the road. So I had the time to actually be able to put into like taking a tree down with you by yourself or just one guy. That's a day, 2 day kind of thing.
Sure.
Sometimes 3, depending on the job. So if I was ever going to be trying to do this, working a regular 9 to 5 and only having my weekends, then I don't know that I would have ever been able to actually got started doing it. But being able to have that dedicated 3 to 5 days off, I was kind of in the perfect spot to be able to start doing this kind of work.
Yeah, that's great. And then so you got going and you kind of you got the company moving forward. You left the job. So when do you remember the feeling of when you left that job or told them that you maybe putting the 2-week notice in to kind of go in full time, kind of what that felt like and how that went?
Well, I'll be honest with you. The other job, we didn't end on great terms. If things hadn't, like there were some transitions going on in the cell industry at the time, moving into 5G, and we were doing some projects with some supervisors that probably shouldn't have been supervisors in some of those instances. And we didn't end on great terms. So it wasn't really me putting a 2 weeks notice. It was, I'm glad that I'd already started doing this part-time, because at that point I just told them I was working in Florida and I had my wife come down and pick me up. So I told him, I was like, we finished the job, said I quit. I don't plan on me being here tomorrow. I don't care where we're at. I'm not going to be back here. Like, here's all my equipment, sign it back in, and I'll be gone in the morning.
And then off to the races with
and then it was just like, at that point I was glad that I'd been where I was able to walk away, because if not, I would probably have ended up being in an unsafe work environment for a couple of more weeks or a month while they were working out all that transition. And I'm not sure I would have stayed in any job at that point. I would have been just unemployed trying to find something else.
Yeah, that's a pivotal point. And that's where a lot of people are. And I can't tell you the feeling that I had when I finally made the decision to go full steam ahead with this, similar to what you're talking about too. It's like this, it's kind of like a big monkey or a gorilla off your back. You kind of finally feel like you're doing what you should be doing. And it's kind of like a breath of fresh air. Like, okay, now it's me, it's all or nothing. It's this business. Kind of,
and I'm the only one that I have to blame for failing.
Exactly.
Like if I fail, it's because I didn't do whatever it was that I needed to do. So I didn't hustle enough, or I wasn't able to close the sale, or I wasn't able to, I damaged somebody, dropped a tree on somebody's house or car. And it was just like, well, if you do that in the beginning, you're probably not going to get much more work. You don't have a reputation to fall back on.
But
so
you're confident enough that that's probably not going to happen. So I totally get what you're saying, man. It's like, it's just a refreshing feeling knowing that now it's all on you. If you're a type that works hard and hustles and knows you're going to do the right thing for people, it's almost that track record you build up on the side is almost what gives you the confidence to kind of move forward full time. Because if you do it more than what you were doing it before, 2 or 3 days a week, you do it 6, 7 days a week or 5 days a week, whatever, you're just going to build it faster. You're going to go to it.
And I can't, like, the driving things, I was like, because the first couple of weeks or months or however long it took for me to be doing the work when I was actually getting my own customers and I wasn't doing contract climbing and it wasn't just a job for a friend. That first review that I got that's had 5 stars and was just like one of those glowing, like, this is the review that you want under your name on that first page of Google when somebody searches you. When you start getting those, it's just like, I made the right decision. This is what I'm doing for the rest of my life.
Well, and you can leverage that review too in a lot of different places. So so let's talk about that. So you got from, you know, the kind of like doing it for friends, family, different things like that, small jobs, contract climbing, to now you're busy. Now you got a full boat, full slate, full schedule, kind of with you and the crew you're kind of assembling and putting together. So kind of how did it start going from there? Were you guys busy every day once you started kind of branching off, going just all full steam ahead?
Let's see. When I first started hiring, it took me, I probably could have done it sooner if I had known more about the local, like rental fleets and stuff around, and different equipment that I could get, and what the requirements were on some of the bigger stuff to be able to rent. Cause I was always thinking that I'll never be able to afford that until I can just buy it.
Sure.
And the rental on that stuff is just going to be outrageous, and I can't afford that. I finally started calling around, and I was like, so we got like a dingo. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to afford it. Well, I was only paying $3,000 a month to rent a dingo, and that doubled my productivity. So I was like, I'm making way more than that right now. So that's definitely something that we can do. If I'd known some of those things, then it wouldn't have taken near as long to start getting full scale, full steam ahead kind of stuff. But in the first year or so, I was probably busy, like guaranteed at least 3 days a week I had work that I was doing. And most of the time it was 4 or 5 days a week during the summer and when we were busy. We're in Alabama, Birmingham area. So we don't really have, you know, like the Northeast, Midwest kind of weather in the winter. We can work year round. So except for like in the early spring when it rains for 3 months, sometimes, you know, 2 and 3 and 4 days a week. And every yard around is just a swamp. I mean, we can work. It took me a little while to get to that point because the off-season work was mostly word of mouth referrals, because we weren't getting as many leads generated in the off-season. So it was harder to win those because there was more competition for those. But it probably took me a year. Let's see, 6 years in. My foreman has been with me for 5 years. So yeah, it took me a little over a year after we were doing this full time to go from contract climbing to having a dedicated, work or dedicated crew and personnel that I could justify having on salary or on a regular payroll.
Yeah, and that's exciting time right there, because that's when you're kind of, you know, that this is what you're doing, and you're going clearly in this direction. There's no what ifs anymore. And what were you doing? Kind of, I'm sure you were just hustling to try to find more leads, more work, and things like that. Were you putting out signs or making sure your trucks were wrapped or people could easily find you, or putting flyers?
We didn't wrap any trucks in the beginning. We got magnets and stickers done. It was a little bit cheaper.
Oh yeah, this is good. Yeah,
I didn't have the trucks that they would want to wrap, a little too dented up for them to just to say our scan on this thing's showing it's not working out right. But no, like, so when I left the towers, what I ended up doing the first equipment that I bought after I started was I was working in that little Ford Focus with the one chainsaw and whatever. I had a 401k that I had, a decent amount of money in. So I cashed the whole thing out. I went all in. all of my investment and all my savings, everything that I'd had started for my retirement, cashed it all in, bought a truck, a stump grinder, new spikes and a good saddle, and started from there.
Invested in yourself. Yeah. Instead of digging
Yeah,
in the banking account. Yep.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's see, we did advertising. We got in with, like I said, the lead generation type stuff,
Like Home Advisor, Angie's List,
yeah,
things like that.
yeah. We were
Mhm.
using, I only did Home Advisor. I didn't do Angie's List. Now I don't have a choice.
Right. Yeah. Same company. Yep.
Now
Mm-hmm.
they're the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing a Home Advisor, and to this day, Home Advisor is still our biggest. That we probably get about 70% of our leads, and our, actually not just our leads, but our jobs come
Mm-hmm.
from Home Advisor at about or Angie's now at about 70%.
That's good. Yeah, it depends on the area of the country. I mean, some areas work
Yeah.
really good. We hear some areas are just so competitive with the price
Well,
bids
it
and those
it
and stuff
is
too.
very competitive here. We've like there are, off the top of my head, like we're one of the smaller full-time companies that are, have all of our licensing and insurance and everything, like legit companies that it's not like, a guy and his buddy in a pickup truck kind of thing,
Sure.
which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with. That's where all of us start.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for it to be contracts and commercial and being, a full service kind of company,
Mm-hmm.
there's 10 at least that are within 30 miles of me. So competition is pretty stiff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and like we get under, like there's jobs that I go out to and they're like, well, so-and-so said they could do it for this. And I'm like, I don't, okay.
Sure. Go right ahead with that. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I
I'm
know.
like,
And that
well,
helps you differentiate yourself too, having all the credentials, license, insurance, and all that stuff too. And a lot of times too, it's just a matter of contacting these leads as soon as possible too. Because if
oh
they
yeah.
come through
As
and you take
usually,
3 hours, yeah, you're not going to get a hold of them 5 hours, 3, 4 hours later, typically.
no, not
You know.
almost never.
Yeah.
Uh, the only time that you end up that I've seen is that we can get in touch with somebody like more than a day.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Sorry, I had a phone call come in.
Mm-hmm.
Is when it's this time of year, and most of the, like that Big Ten are in the area that I'm talking about. They're booked out for 3 and 4 months, and I don't book out that far because I end up losing jobs
Yeah.
without notice more than
Mm-hmm.
I keep
Hey, we
them.
got it done sooner. You can go ahead and take us off the schedule type thing.
Yeah, that's I was, when I first started, I was trying to book out like 2 months at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time that second month finally came around for me to start working on those jobs that had been booked that long, I'd roll up on a job and the tree's gone and I never got a phone call. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
now I've got to fill in however many days that this
Mm-hmm.
has already happened. I'd have to start going around and either calling if I couldn't get a hold of them on the phone because they didn't want to talk to me because they canceled and didn't tell
Yeah.
me.
Sure.
I have to start driving out to all of these job sites now and reviewing all of them to see if we still have a job.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got to start rebooking for all these times, double work, triple work sometimes. So now I only book out a month is about as far as I go. And because I've only got one crew, that's not a big deal. And we can go like in the busy time of year, I can still get a hold of people, 2 or 3 days after we've gotten a lead because other people just can't get to them.
Yeah, they're
Because they're
either
so
booked
busy.
out or just didn't contact them or something like
Yeah,
that.
they're just like,
Yeah.
well, I don't even want to talk to you because I'm so
Yeah.
busy,
Right.
or they never came out, or they gave them a bid and they couldn't get to them until January, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, May.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you don't want to have to give them bad news, so they just don't even want to call the customer, I guess, in the beginning. So Does that kind of give you that forward thinking of, man, if I can stay booked out 2 or 3 months, and I probably can add another crew at some point in the
Oh,
near
I
future?
know that like
Mhm.
right now today, I could put a 5-man crew to work 5 days a week forever right
Mhm.
now. I've got enough work or I've got enough people calling trying to get me to do work that if I could find the people that I trusted to do the
Sure.
work and go out and me not have to be on the job doing training all the time and supervising everything, then I could probably put two additional crews out right now.
Mhm.
But it's so hard trying to find people that you trust. And I like the industry that we're in, it's, it's hard to find sometimes the kind of people that you want to be in a customer's yard doing work for you.
Sure. Yeah, that's a full-time marketing channel in itself, is
Yeah,
hiring,
it
right?
is. I
It's
mean,
just trying
and
to bring
we've
people
got,
in. Yeah.
you know, our trucks say, McDaniel Tree Services now accepting applications,
Hmm.
and that never comes down.
Yeah, exactly. We're always looking for top talent, in the local area.
Exactly.
Sure.
I was at the pool this weekend and was talking to a guy that was out of town thinking about moving. I was like, "Well, what do you do?
Yeah.
You looking for work? You
Looking
got
to
a
get in
job
the
lined
tree
up when you
service
get here?"
business. Yeah, exactly. That's the 10-foot rule, or 10-inch rule, whatever they call it. You want to tell everybody within 10 feet of you what you do.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys have any type of kind of moving along with the marketing effort stuff? So you're doing the home advisor, getting good word of mouth referrals. You got the magnets on the truck, so people know who you are when you're in the neighborhood. You don't just have a blank truck, pulling in the neighborhood, which I think is awesome. Do you guys put out any signs or do anything additional like that?
We
Or
don't do a lot of signs. That tends to well, I've found we've done them in the past, and I've
Mhm.
found that like the yard signs and things like
Mhm.
that, they're only typically there for as long as you're there.
Yeah.
And my trucks are all lettered up, so I can't justify the extra expense for getting a sign that's the same size as the ones that are on my truck, which is like a 12 by 14 or 8 by 14 or whatever
Hmm.
in somebody's yard for an extra day.
Yeah, and a lot of you got to get the grass cut during this time of the year pretty often, so it's going to get
Yeah.
picked up pretty quick.
Yeah, those tend to go away pretty fast. So we got away from doing yard signs. um I I was looking at starting like a door hanger campaign,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of local ordinances around here about they consider that panhandling
Mhm.
here, like going out and just door knocking and putting flyers up. So if we're not doing basically the only thing that we can do here legally and not get in trouble without breaking some kind of ordinance or some city official deciding that they don't like us anymore because of something is mailers.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking at next, is trying
Yeah.
to start doing some mailers.
It's very effective. I mean, the good thing about doing mailers, you can use every door direct mail system.
Yeah.
And you can just pick zip codes and then pick carrier routes in there for the zip codes, and
Yeah.
pick the ones with the least amount of commercial, least amount of apartment complexes, and more residential, because it's going to hit the right type of people. But man, it works pretty good because you can do most all of your appointments and estimates in a couple different neighborhoods for the day. They're right close
Yeah.
to each
I
other.
can you can get everybody if
Yeah.
when you can get it
Hmm.
tightened up and zoned into that one zip code or that one carrier's route,
Hmm.
then yeah, you can get a lot of work done real fast as far as getting the estimates done. And sometimes if you get the job sold, then what you would usually have, you know, a job a day, you can get a job and a half done in because it's around the
Sure.
corner,
Right around the
three
corner. Yeah.
blocks away or whatever. So we can
Hmm.
finish this one at 3, where normally we'd be going home, as we can go over here and get started and already have some work done for the next day. You can start getting a little bit extra work done. It's all about what you can do to be the most efficient.
Yep. Exactly. Now, you mentioned something about social media earlier, and you're using Facebook a little bit, maybe Instagram for kind of marketing and stuff. I know LinkedIn, you're on there too. Are you doing any kind of weekly or monthly type postings or anything with that?
I'm horrible at the technological side of the marketing thing.
Hmm.
That's some I need to hire somebody for that. You know a guy?
Yeah. We might know somebody for you. Yeah.
No,
But
like when I first started, I was doing like uh, twice a month. I was doing like a little video
mhm,
of, you know, homeowner tips for like
perfect.
trimming,
I like
pruning,
that.
when the
Yeah.
best time to do what you want to get done is, kind of
Mhm,
things like that. I guess I based it a little bit off of like what Davies does with their
mhm.
arborist series, but it was more, localized to here, our particular, plant trees that are local to us, best practices for our weather type, our climate zone, stuff like that.
Yeah, you could even have a section on your website like video tips, from McDaniel
Yeah,
Tree Service, and then your videos
I
will
got
be.
I got away from it because I started getting a lot busier.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't have, because I could probably attribute some of that extra business to those videos.
Well, and the cool
But
thing is too, with that one video, you can take it and you can upload it to YouTube, and have your keywords for that video on there, tree service, Birmingham, Alabama, and people will find it there too. So there's little things you can do with that one MP4 video that you record on your cell phone. Yeah, you
yeah.
can post it to social, you can put it on the website, you can also put it on YouTube, and it will generate lead flow, in the end.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are so many things that we're not doing that I know that we should be doing,
Mhm,
that I don't have the. I'm trying to scale right now. That's where we're at in the business. I'm
mhm.
just over 5 years in, right at 6 years in, and we're still working everything. It's basically a home-based business, and we're at the point to where I'm trying to scale this year. So we're looking for a new commercial property somewhere where we've got room to be able to put the extra trucks and equipment
Mhm.
for additional crews, start trying to find actual office help, for somebody that's like a full-time, can do the calls and scheduling and stuff like that, so that I'm not doing, because I'm doing everything right now. The
Yeah.
only thing that I'm not doing is actually climbing and cutting a tree. And even, you know, people have to have days off every now and then. So if some days I'm still doing that too.
Well, it sounds like you're growing the best way you possibly can. You're doing the right thing for your business. I mean, sometimes people overextend themselves by trying to grow too quickly. And that's probably common in every niche, every industry. You get that business coming in and you want to grow, and you grow and grow and grow. And it's sometimes you can go a little too fast. So I think just having that, grow by every year, try to grow a little bit and kind of keep putting more things into place to kind of take off your plate is a smart move. And that's what you're doing. It sounds like you're doing awesome with that. So that's
Oh
really
yeah,
good.
no, we've had consistent growth every year. I think the first year that I was doing this, when I was starting to contract, I did, first full year, I think we did close to 70,000 in
Hmm.
sales, which I mean is nothing for a full service tree company. But that was just me, and every now and then I'd have a helper and stuff like that. We did 70. The next year, I think we got to a little over 100, like 108, I think. Year three, we doubled. We're over 200. Year four, we added another 30%. So or yeah, 30%. So we're just over 300. And then COVID, and we were somewhere, we've stayed, three 350, 360. But last year, coming out of COVID, uh we were just under five.
Awesome. Well,
So,
great
and
trajectory.
that's the
Yeah.
whole time. It's one crew. um we'd been climbing everything, no buckets. I'd rent a lift or a crane when we needed one,
Mhm.
uh until 2020. 2020, we got our first bucket truck.
Awesome. Hmm.
Yep. And then now I've got a bucket truck. We've got two mini skids, stump grinder, and like, let's see, one, two, three, four pickup trucks with trailers.
So got the capacity to keep doing more, and the trajectory is good. It's on the upswing for sure. Imagine if you double down on the marketing, how many more calls and appointments, you get to go on at that point.
I'd lose my mind if I got more calls
There you
right now.
go. And that means you're doing
I
something
can't
right.
keep up.
Yeah.
Right now, my biggest focus is on the personnel. That's my biggest thing, is trying to find the personnel.
Yeah.
And I'm to the point where I'm ready to do a nationwide. I will pay you to move here and then pay you to work for me, and then pay you a bonus if you keep working for me.
Yeah, exactly. All the incentives you can. And I think it seems like with, a lot of the stimulus and things like that, they were going around after COVID, and then the next round of it, they did again last year. It seems like eventually those savings have got to deplete. People have got to get back to work. You know what I mean? I mean,
Oh yeah, I'm hoping so.
Through. I mean, you have to just think that through. I mean, okay, people were sitting around and they were getting paid doing nothing, but you would think eventually they have to go back to work. Everybody's got bills, so
especially since basically the minimum wage is basically increased by $10 an hour at this point, almost.
Yeah.
It's like McDonald's is hiring at $16 and $17 an hour for a frontline cashier. I'm like, God.
Yeah, exactly. Well, getting on to it, man. So you guys are busy. You got, multiple crew members. You guys are, booked out a month or 2 months right now in advance. Are you guys using any kind of like tools to put your customers into a database type thing, like a jobber.com or anything like that?
No, I don't use Jobber. Everything goes through our QuickBooks.
Okay.
Every estimate gets done on my phone through the QuickBooks app. So everything's goes between my phone, the desktop, and in my accountant. So we've got a running list of all of our customers' names, addresses, phone numbers, and emails.
Excellent.
So I can pull all of those reports and do an email report or an email blast at any time, or a thanks or a customer appreciation kind of thing, or anytime we do a big blanket marketing thing, like in the just before winter gets here, for people that are wanting to do like heavy prunes and things like that on stuff. Reminding everybody that, the leaves are falling. Now's a good time to start trimming out those trees where you want to take a lot of weight out or a lot of stuff out, or, in the spring, everything's fixing to start raining. We're fixing to start getting a lot of growth. If you want to do some trimming, let's try doing that before sap starts running again.
So powerful, man. Keeping up with that customer database. And I tell clients this all the time, and you're doing it the right way. I mean, you guys have been in business 6 years. You've already got a database. You're building it, because that list is really, because you can build a fence essentially around your customer base if you send out these kind of educational type emails. And so it really helps kind of, trigger in their mind, hey, maybe I do need to get these trees trimmed, especially during your slower season. It might help fill the gaps with appointments during that time frame.
Yeah.
And so it's really,
we also want to make sure that our customers remember who we are, because I've had customers call me and been like, man, I've been trying to remember, like, I lost your car and I couldn't remember the name. And I was like, man, and then we saw one of your trucks driving down the road the other day. And I was like, that was them. We need to call them, write that number down.
Yes.
So we try and just to keep our name fresh with our contacts and our email and everything. Make sure that our customers that we've done the work for remember who we are. Because, I mean, let's be honest, if you go to somebody's house, they've got one tree and you cut it down, you don't really have a customer anymore, but you still have that word of mouth advertising. Like, that person can tell 10 people a year for the rest of their life about you if you did a good job.
Yeah. And that's what we tell people too. It's like, leads are good. Leads come in, but branding is like the firepower. It's like another firepower, another line in the water for your marketing, because if people remember your brand and your name, it's going to go even further. You're going to get more lead flow, more deal flow coming in, more estimates, more appointments, because people remember your name. They don't have to look you up or forget it. And so that's so powerful. And doing the list and the list building, email marketing, man, that's a great strategy for long term too, because imagine that list is going to be 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 customers,
Oh yeah.
And I mean, then you've got a humongous market.
Because we've got it's not just our invoices that we keep our customer information on. It's every estimate that we go on.
Everybody you've touched.
3 and 5 and 12 a day. So
exactly right.
That's a lot of numbers and email addresses.
Yeah, that's great, man. Well, you shared a lot today, Blake. We really appreciate it. So now that you're 6 years into the business, you guys are growing, you're scaling, you're looking to kind of get to that next level with the crew and everything else. Like, what would you tell a guy maybe just getting started out that maybe just branched out into their own business, kind of similar story to yours, working somewhere, just went out in business for themselves. They're getting busy. Maybe they're getting down in the, a little bit, they go up, they go down mentally and emotionally like everybody else does as an entrepreneur, because you're on an island out there kind of by yourself, right? So it's
Oh yeah.
important to network
Yeah,
and all
no,
that. What would you tell people?
this is the one thing that I tell somebody is don't worry about what all of your friends and people that people that you used to work with are telling you about going out on your own. There's only one person in the world that's always been there for you and always had your back, and that's you.
Man, that's awesome.
You're the only one that was there when you go to bed at night. You're the only one that's there when you wake up in the morning. You're the one looking back at yourself in the mirror every day. You're the one that's got your back. So if you can tell yourself that you can do it, do it. Read those reviews. If you're not getting good reviews, read the reviews and figure out what you need to do to get better reviews. If you're getting good reviews, let that be the motivator. If you're committed to doing this, then you can do it. I mean, if you think that you can't, you're right.
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's pretty much all there is to it. It's like, if you think that you can, you probably can. If you think that you can't, you probably can't.
Yeah. And that's great advice. I mean, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. It's going to be, but you're right. It's that person that you look in the mirror every day. If you're there for yourself every day, you can do this, you're going to work hard and you can believe in yourself, you're going to get this done. You're going to do it. So that's an awesome share, man. Powerful stuff. Well, awesome, man. So you guys are in Alabama. You guys are getting ready for summer's, you're busy.
Oh, summer's here in Alabama.
Oh yeah. Us too, man. Here in Atlanta. We
were 113 degrees, I think 3 days last week.
We were too. We were over 100. It was nuts. Yeah, it takes a while for the AC to crank up in the vehicles once it hits.
Oh yeah, it by the time you get to the next one, it still hadn't cooled off yet.
Awesome, man. Well, we really appreciate it, Blake. Thanks so much for joining us today on the podcast. And anybody watching this, again, if you're on YouTube, if you're watching the recording, go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel. If you're on the audio, just listen to the podcast on Spotify or Amazon or Apple. Subscribe there. We got more episodes coming up soon. And until next time, this is Wesley Smith with Tree Service Marketing Profits Podcast and Tree Service Digital. Have a great day, and we'll see you guys soon.